Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Wild Winter Women YouTube channel, episode 1. I'm Leah, and this is Faye with me today. It's currently Saturday morning, February 22nd, and we are on the eve of the 2025 Iditarod Trail Invitational race. And so we are providing coverage of that race. This is the first Wild Winter Women YouTube episode, and we are super excited. So Wild Winter Women is a group that was started by Kari Gibbons, who lives in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And it's a group of women, like-minded women who like to do outdoor adventures and support each other in those adventures. Open to, any women identifying people who are interested in those types of activities and interested in contributing and learning more. So the race, Iditarod Trail Invitational, kicks off tomorrow afternoon up near Anchorage, Alaska. For those of you who are less familiar with the race, it is, you can choose to ski, bike, or run in the event. There are this year 3 distances to choose from. There's a 150 mile, there's a 350 mile, and then a 1,000 mile. And we have, there's a bunch of racers in each of those distances and a number of really good friends going up there too. So don't mind the squeaky in the background. My dog is with me today, so he's enjoying a toy. So we are going to be giving a daily update here on YouTube. Hopefully most days or as many days as we can. We'll be able to talk about what's going on. There's a chance maybe we could bring in some special guests, either racers, volunteers who have been on the trail, or other people with some experience or knowledge of the trail and knowledge of the racers. I have some ideas for some people who would be really fun to have on here, but I don't want to say their names because I haven't reached out to them personally yet. So Faye, do you want to talk about some of the other race coverage from the Wild Winter Women group that we're going to be putting out in addition to YouTube?
Sure. So let's see, we'll start with a hopefully daily written update. And so we will be tracking like the day's events and kind of go over the highlights, and we'll usually write this in the evenings, and it will be posted in numerous places, hopefully to find everybody. So it will be posted on the ITI website. It will be posted on Facebook. It will be there'll be some Instagram coverage and also like probably extra videos and live things hopefully going on the Wild Winter Women Instagram page and on the ITI Instagram page. We have like several reporters contributing. Leah, I think there's like eight total so far, and we may again be bringing in extra special guests and people to contribute as the race goes along. So what we do is we kind of obsessively watch track leaders, social media, talk to our friends. Sometimes we can get a hold of them on their inReach out on the trail and find out real-time conditions, grab pictures, videos, things like that from the trail. We have some embedded women volunteering this year as part of like the race volunteers. So they'll be at different checkpoints to start with. So both at Roan and Nikolai. So we'll be looking forward to their updates out from the trail. Let's see. And did I miss anywhere where we're going to be posting? I think we hit the main social media channels there, and then along with our podcast YouTube every evening. I think so. The goal of this is we want to amplify like women in the race and also the other racers as well. We'll be mainly focusing on the women racers to start with, and then highlighting other racers as we go along. And the goal of this is to, help family and friends and miscellaneous fans who want to follow along, get insights from the people who have been out there, kind of get to know the cast of characters, hopefully, so we can cheer them on along their way. And plus, it's an outlet for like people who are obsessed about ITI, such as Leah and myself, and we could talk about ITI for days on end, and that's what we're going to do.
Great. Thanks. So, as Faye said, we are obsessed with the Iditarod Trail Invitational, and we both have experience with the event. I'll start with an introduction about myself. I've been enjoying winter activities my entire life, winter camping, cross-country skiing. With that, I started being involved or racing in winter endurance races, and then I got a fat bike, and then I've been on bike since I think 2012 in these events. So like 13, 14 years of winter bike racing. I biked the Iditarod Trail Invitational in 2016 in the 350-mile distance, and then took a little bit of time off and then went back in 2023 and 2024, both times in the 1,000-mile distance. How about you, Faye?
Sure. So I started in winter races, I think it was around like 2012, something like that. So we're going on more than 10 years of winter racing. And in my mind, it's one of those things where you keep going up in distance if you like it, right? So you give it a try, you like it, you keep going up in distance. And in my mind, like ITI is like the granddaddy of them all. And when I started out, I could never picture myself here. And then when you get there, it's such an experience, and you keep coming back. Maybe some people do. So I first did the ITI 350 on foot in 2020. And then I went back in 2022 and did it on foot again, the 350. And then in 2024, I did the 1,000 to Nome. And yeah, all three very different experiences, and yet so fun.
Cool. Yeah, and it is a super fun event, and that's why Faye and I are here, because we do love it so much. We like to bring people the stories from the trail. Wild Winter Women has a history over the last 5 or so years of providing kind of like some coverage or like discussion of what's happening in the event. And it started because back in, I think it was 2020, there was a dramatic moment when Kate Coward, who is a dear friend of ours, also from Minneapolis, she's going to be up in the 350-mile race on bike starting tomorrow again. She's been up, this will be her 3rd time up there. Anyway, I was with my brother during the event, and I was explaining to him what I was seeing on track leaders, and then talking about what the trail is like in that particular location, and then adding in details that I had seen on social media. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a compelling story. This is amazing. And it was his suggestion that, there's a group of people, or me, like kind of bring some of this information together to help people kind of connect the dots and kind of understand a little bit more of what's happening up there. Like obviously all of us are, far away from the intimate details, but there are a lot of clues that you can glean. And so Faye are excited to bring that to you, and the rest of the Wild Winter Women reporting group is really excited to bring that to folks too. So all of the racers at this point are getting ready to start tomorrow. In just over 24 hours, they'll be, packing up on the bus and going over to the start, which is a little bit of a drive out of Anchorage. My experience has been before this race, I think a lot of other people's, you're excited, you're nervous, and you don't know what you're going to get. Because in this event, like, I feel like more so than a lot of other events I can think of, like pretty much all, just like the range of possibilities for what might possibly happen is so wide open. They could get like really cold temperatures, like 50 below. You know, they've seen that in some years. They could get warm days, like 35 degrees and sunny, which like feels like, you know, you may as well be at the beach because the sun reflects off the snow and it's just so bright and warm. Or they could get like feet of snow and be like trudging through that. Um, you know, they could be on glare ice for, you know, hundreds of miles, or pushing their bike through like grass clumps, or they're called like tussocks or hummocks. You know, and you hear the stories from some years, like one year there was like 2 feet of snow followed by 50 below and super windy. So, you know, I think they're like excited, but also, you know, kind of nervous about all of the potential challenges that you don't know like what's going to happen until you get into it. So,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, I can kind of add to, I mean, because when you were saying like, what are the racers doing today? I started thinking about what I was doing the day before the race. And you can speak to the bikes because it's a whole different ball game getting your bike if you need to fly into Anchorage and getting that set up. I know with a sled, like, I mean, we get there with our gear and hopefully your gear arrives in one piece. I know this year we have a racer, Magdalena, who's coming from Germany, and her sled got held up in London, but it's there. It got there in the middle of the
Yay.
night, so she's off and running. Well, she will be. And so the last couple days, the racers have been getting like white gas for their stoves if they need white gas. They've been buying food from usually from Walmart up there. They've been maybe visiting REI for like fire starters, last minute gear, things like that. Probably packing and repacking the sled, deciding what gear, like last minute gear you want to take and last minute gear you want to leave. Um, Gear just flung out everywhere, all over hotel rooms, things like that. There's a lot of like nervous energy and talking to other racers. And last night, the racers had a pre-race party held at Speedway Cycle. So they gathered there, they ate pizza, drank beer, and talked to one another. And I know the years that I've gone, it's like a really great event to get to know people and actually talk to people when you're not under the pressure of racing. And so today they'll be doing like those last minute packing items if they haven't done it already. If they want to go check out something, the Fur Rondy races are happening in Anchorage right now. So I know one year we headed downtown to watch the dogs race, and it's a really fun atmosphere with snow carving and things like that. And then they just wait and talk to one another and do final packing preparations.
Yeah, so many decisions to make of what to bring and what to leave behind, and corresponding with people, kind of, you know, friends and family one last time, and maybe people from work, or trying to get personal lives in order. I would say especially for people going into the 1,000, you know, they're going to be offline for weeks. And so there's a lot to wrap up there before setting out.
Yeah,
So definitely like a butterfly in your stomach, nervous, excited, kind of all of the above kind of a situation.
definitely.
Great.
All right. Should we talk about the route?
Yeah. Do you want to
All right,
go for it?
go for it. So, all right. So the route was supposed to go the southern route this year for the full 1,000-mile race. They do historically they've done the northern route on the even years and the southern route on the odd years. And since it's 2025, they were going to go the southern route. However, there's been a change in the dog sled race. So the Iditarod dog sled race starts 1 week after the human race, or ITI. And so the dog race often puts, they have trail breakers for the dog race, and it often helps put in the trail, marks the trail for the dogs. And eventually the humans will also start following the dog race. And so this year, there's been a last minute change to move the start of the dog race up by Fairbanks. And so the human race has then decided to do the northern route instead of doing the southern route this year. And the reason for that is in the interior, there was going to be a big section where there wasn't going to be a trail. And it's very, almost impossible to go through there without a set trail. Do you want to say anything more about that, Leah?
Yeah, I would just say that, like Faye was saying, like the weather has caused a lot of, like kind of big last minute changes. Like I would say that the weather has kind of been the big story coming out of Alaska. For the last couple of months, they had a great start to their winter. They had a lot of snow in November and December. And then in January, everything kind of warmed up and there started being, more open water than you're comfortable with when you're thinking about, traversing across the interior of the state, because you want things to be as firm as possible for that type of a situation. And the dog sled race said that they would consider moving their race, and then they decided to stay put with a traditional route. And then about last weekend, there was a I don't can't speak to what was happening behind the scenes, but what I saw on social media was a lot of lobbying for mushers to change their race. And so so they did, and then that affected the ITI race. So the racers are still going to be going through an area with relatively low snow. But I think it's a lot better to go on bikes and on foot than with a team of 14 enthusiastic Huskies pulling you along the trail. And the dogs are at risk for getting hurt in that kind of a thing, and sleds break. Whereas if you get hurt in ITI, typically it's your own doing, and it wouldn't be from running too fast. So it's an exciting change. I think that the racers in general will be looking forward to rather fast, icy trails. For the beginning, I'd say, 100 or 200 miles of the race. I think it should be like good, fast conditions, knock on wood. But there's no big snowstorms in the forecast coming up. So I think that they should have a great time. So in general, the way that the route kind of works is you start near Anchorage, actually kind of right across the street from open ocean, or not open ocean, but saltwater, the bay, which is kind of cool to be starting that close to the coast. And then it travels inland, kind of following rivers and river valleys, and then gets to a pass in the Alaska range. And that pass is relatively low. It's just over 3,000 feet. And so it's kind of an obvious place to cross the mountain range. But it is very snowy, and the weather can be treacherous up at the highest part of the course, which is on that pass. And then when you descend beyond the pass, it's downhill. It can be quite fast and fun, particularly if you're on bike or dog sled. I don't know if it's fun on foot. Do you ride your sled down those hills?
If it's not too icy, we can sled down those hills. Yeah.
Cool. And then you're from that point on, you're also following rivers and river valleys for the remainder of the 350-mile race to McGrath. Once you cross over into that mountain range, you're in the rain shadow behind the Alaska range. And so it's typically not much snow back there. Also, because it's in the rain shadow, it's susceptible to forest fires. So there have been a number of fires that have come through over the last few decades in that area. So in that regard, like sometimes you see burnt trees, and there's like not much undergrowth to catch the blowing snow that there is. So everyone kind of typically knows that area is going to be low on snow, but this year it extends a little bit beyond where is typical. And then one last Alaska Native Village to go through before you come to McGrath, which is the end of the 350-mile race. Then folks that are in the 1,000-mile race are going to continue on through the interior of Alaska, through some old abandoned kind of ghost towns, abandoned mining districts. There is still some infrastructure there, some bridges and some, I guess you would call them a road, in that it's like a graded place to go, but there's no no plowing, no maintained roads in the interior. And then you follow that to the Yukon River. You go down the river just right, the trail is just on top of the ice. And then you get to, it's called the Caltech Portage, which is a 70-mile overland trail. And then you're on the coast, which is a lot hillier than it sounds, just to be along the coast for the last couple 100 miles into Nome. And all told, that is right there about 1,000 miles. And, I would say from this point on, where the racers are going to leave tomorrow until you reach Nome, you might go through little villages, but there's no road access other than, from isolated villages. There aren't road crossings. There's no support crews. There's no, if something goes wrong, just getting, having a friend drive up and pick you up. The only transportation in or out this time of year is by plane or snowmobile or dog sled or something like that. So I think that's all I've got about the route. And of course, as we go along, we'll get into a lot more detail as we have folks traveling through those areas. So with that, I would say the race is going to kick off tomorrow afternoon, 2 p.m. Alaska Standard Time. So for those of you, in the Faye and I are both located in the Midwest in Minnesota. The time difference is 3 hours, so it'll be 5 p.m. Folks in Minnesota, you can add or subtract from there. I'm sure we have people all around the world who are going to be watching the race, and hopefully this podcast or YouTube channel very closely. So I guess give us feedback. Let us know what you're looking forward to in the race, what you want to hear about, things that you want to make sure that we cover in a future episode, or if you have questions. So we're interested in getting the feedback one way or the other. So thank you very much, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks.